Joe, Matt Rhule also said, as we got done with the segment with him, why do people want to keep expanding this stupid playoff? He said, let's expand it to 40. And you came in here and said, that's kind of got to be a joke, right? I don't know if that's a joke. I don't know if Matt Rhule is joking about wanting 40 teams in a playoff.
I was so stunned by this. You tagged me in it, and then I was kind of like glanced at it. I'm like, is this real? Read the article, tried to find like what the context of this was. Didn't really find enough to prove if this was a joke or not. It seems pretty freaking candid. The quote that he had, the more spots, the better, man. Make that thing 40 and let's go. I think, again, you're talking about a league that we play 9 conference games where some others play 8. So I think that puts you at an automatic disadvantage. Again, we're making excuses. We are making excuses. Now, to be very direct, I don't think that he literally means a 40-team playoff is the perfect format. I think he is just pushing for ridiculous expansion. Like, so let's make it even playoff.
Well, so he can make it.
He went on to like further push, and I know that you're going to hate this. He went on to like further dig into, let's have this many slots, auto bids per conference, and then you qualify for them, and then you get into the playoff. That was part of his little pitch that he had going on with this. No, we don't need to expand this further. You and I already had this debate on the 16-team expansion. I don't hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but anything beyond 16 creates a chaotic mess. You're going to have so many shit teams after the 16 best in the country. There are not 20 or more teams that are capable of competing, and not competing for a national championship, just competing in a playoff. There will be too many blowouts.
Joe, he also takes a shot at the SEC there, which I'm labeled an SEC homer, about 8 conference games. My brother in Christ, you played Purdue, you played Rutgers, you played UCLA, which they lost. They lost. Okay? They lost. You played USC, you lost. You played Wisconsin, you finally got your first win in 8 weeks. 8 weeks. You got your first win. Joe, they played Iowa. And this
man's a good program.
Joe, stop. I don't mean to be rude here, but stop in the sense of, brother, I mean, like, okay, replace it with Florida's schedule. Let's replace it with Florida's schedule. Let's replace it with South Carolina's schedule. Let's replace it with Bama's schedule. Let's replace it with LSU's. What about Georgia's? Joe, Georgia faced 6 ranked opponents in their last 8 games before the playoff. 6. Florida was the other one that they didn't. Florida was ranked at the end of the year. Like, what? So if you want to take a pot shot, look at what you're doing. Joe, they lost to UCLA. Arguably the worst team in the Big Ten. Would you agree? One of.
Yeah, Northwestern was probably worse. But yeah, one of the worst. Look.
In reference to the 40-team playoff for me, Joe, this is what I'll say. I think every time you expand, I feel as if that it denigrates the sport. It waters down the regular season. It waters it down. So 16, Joe, there's not 5 teams that can win it every year. There's only maybe 3, maybe. What are we doing here? Like, what are we legitimately doing? Joe, it feels participation trophy to me. We're just going to expand so people can say that they made the playoff.
Again, I know that we already had the 16-team playoff conversation, and I don't want to rehash that because, again, I am not like 100% in favor of it, but I'm more in favor of a 16-team playoff than I am a 12-team in terms of actually creating the right types of matchups and compelling games that are going to be entertaining to watch and that will actually help us figure out a true national champion. Outside of that, though, To reiterate, expanding past 16 is nonsensical. And it's exactly what you said. This is the first time I will agree with the statement that you just had of it is a participation trophy. You're right. The intention behind this, I don't think that this was Matt Rhule's intention, but the reason why something like this, like a 24-team playoff, for example, a 32-team playoff, for example, could get momentum is for coaches and athletic directors trying to fill their bonuses. If you reach a playoff, you get a bonus. That's why bowl games still exist as much as they do outside of all the politicking on the Bulls side. You get a bonus for getting your team to a bowl game. There is money. You get 100 grand, 200 grand, whatever amount of money it is. These guys get paid extra money for saying they got where they did. So if the playoff expands, these guys get even more money. That is even more money than you would get if you just went to the Tax Slayer Bad Mowers Bowl or whatever the hell it's called. The main thing with this, Blake, and I always reference this when we talk getting bigger than 16 teams. The FCS does this already. They have a 24-team playoff. You and I both played FCS football. You and I both competed and got close to the playoff. You didn't play in the playoff, did you?
No.
My team got really close. We were 6-5 our final year, and we lost one of our last games, and we barely missed it, playing in one of the toughest conferences. I can tell you, despite us playing in one of the most competitive conferences in the CAA, most of the teams in our conference that year did not make it far. It was all JMU. And if you look across a lot of the outcomes and the scores of an expanded playoff like that, where you'd have to increase the amount of seats for the lower level conferences, you will have blowouts left and right. That is no different than Florida playing Tulane in a useless bowl game. It's no different than that. I would even argue that some teams would probably still have players opt out of those games because they wouldn't see the purpose of getting their asses kicked and risking an injury before the NFL Combine. If you had a G5 kid, or, I mean, the example of Tulane, Darian Mensah transferred before they even played against Florida. But if you've got like a really premier G5 kid who has a chance to go in the top 50 picks, why would he show up to play in the bowl in a college football playoff game if they know that they're going to lose by 30 points or more? This would not produce good value. Anything more than 16 is too many, Blake.
I still think it's too many with 12. So you know my stance in reference to, like,
yeah,
I agree with everything almost what you said. I mean, again, I think we can cut it down. Like, I just don't like, Joe, the top 40. Think about some of the teams that weren't ranked but were just on the outside in. Think of them. Joe, in a 40-team playoff, you would have a team. Who was the number one seed this year, by the way? I forgot. Oregon.
Yeah.
You would have a team like, I don't know. I don't.
Wait, in a 40-team playoff,
yeah, like in a 40, even if you gave them double buys, regardless of what
Toledo,
it is.
like it would be like Toledo or something like that.
A team that's 9-3, 9-4. Here's one. Realistically, Iowa State, BYU.
Wait, I don't think one of those teams would be ranked that low. It would be. There would be like multiple. There'd be like four to maybe even 8 G5 spots theoretically. Like there would be that many. Well, seriously, I forget who. I think Toledo won the MAC this year. Really shameful that I don't know this, but or be Tulane trotting out there who was in the AAC championship game. It would be Army. It would be one. It wouldn't even be a G5 team that won their conference theoretically if we were this big. If it was 24, it might be a little bit more consolidated. But to this point, Oregon, like we saw them play against Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl 2 years ago,
were blown out.
Barely even tried. Like they barely tried. Oregon kept their starters in, I believe, so that they could complete some records. Like it'd be a bye week, essentially. You're better off just having a bye instead of trying to air that stupid game. Who would watch this? That's the question. Who would watch that? I don't think many people would.
No, I mean, but you would be getting dangerously close to having half of the teams in the country, or no, a third of the teams in the country in the playoff. I mean, Joe, you will have teams like who went 8-4 in the Big Ten. It'd be like Michigan getting into a playoff, LSU getting into a playoff.
Well, but like Michigan and LSU
don't
might do some
deserve
damage, but they don't. Right, they don't deserve it. They might do some damage, but that's a different angle to me of like that would completely remove the value of the playoff because you could have a Cinderella theoretically in a situation like this. Like you could just randomly, and a Cinderella in this situation would be a team like LSU that just things click, or a team like Michigan where they get a really good draw on the teams that they're playing and they go on a run and they make it to the Final Four and they get knocked out. And like that's not interesting to me. That's not college football.
They ain't gonna work.